Hi, everyone. This is Jolene Arrighi with sa.global. Thanks for joining us today. We are partnered with Continia, and we have Mark Rhodes on here as well. He will be showing us their document capture and expense product used for Business Central. Mark, over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jolene. And I forgot to flip over so folks can see our faces. Yes, but gosh, I got to say, really been looking forward to this time with everyone and this opportunity to talk a little bit about business process automation, and very appreciative to the folks, the team here at sa.global. I think everybody on the line knows full well that they have very, very deep Dynamics experience, and so it's been a real pleasure working with them to prep for this, and certainly appreciate all the work that Jolene and Natalie have done to help us get prepped. So here we are, like Jolene mentioned, going to jump in and talk about document capture and expense management. We are recording this, and so we'll share the recording out as well, and provide contact information for follow-up questions and so forth. Oh, there's one more sa.global slide, Jolene. Do you want me to take a crack at it? Or probably
No,
better.
I can do that. It's just not moving. So maybe you could.
I apologize. I forgot. Number one mistake is I forgot to restart the slides. Here we go. So here's us. And there we go. Now we're caught up.
Great. Just a little bit about sa.global. We've been in business 30 plus years as a global organization. We're a little bit newer in North America. We have about average of 14 years experience with our consultants. We are 11 times Microsoft Partner of the Year, and we have about 500,000 Dynamics users supported worldwide. So we're in 25 countries, and we've actually implemented in about 80 countries. So we definitely have the breadth of knowledge and ability to support you globally. And that's about it.
Fantastic. Actually, a couple points of coincidence there between our organizations, which we'll cover in a little bit. But let me go ahead and dive in. I want to share very briefly overview of who Continia is. We're going to talk about document capture first, provide you kind of an overall flow, and I'll walk you through some examples. Then we'll do the same for expense management. But overall, I think it's helpful for folks to know our mission in life is to save you time. That's really what it comes down to. Time, obviously, increasingly short supply and increasingly important, right? And so we really do make it our mission to focus on time savings wherever we can, not only with our solutions, but just in terms of how the solutions are designed, the resources we provide, how we provide our go-to-market and provide our resources on our website, the pricing, et cetera, et cetera. I'll point out a few of these things as we're moving through, but that's really what we're in it for. In North America, we have 3 different solutions. Document capture, we're going to talk about today, of course, and that's really for the capture of invoices, but any inbound document. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. We have expense management we're also going to go through, and then document output. If you've been on a BC or NAV for a while, you probably are very familiar with the extra steps that it takes to send out statements, reminders, invoices, confirmations, et cetera, right, out of the system. We have, again, focused on saving you time and automating that distribution of those outbound documents and putting that either on a regular schedule or triggering it based on an event in BC or NAV. And I'm going to use BC from here on out, but know that we work with NAV back to version 3.7. So a very deep, long history with NAV. And anytime I say BC, I mean NAV as well. So we can support certainly a lot of older versions of on-prem environments, of course, with the latest version of Business Central as well. Anyway, with document output, again, if you'd like to learn more about that, certainly visit our website or follow up with me afterwards, and we'll get that contact information later. All right. So we really do talk about time quite a bit and really focus on that. And I think it's pretty well documented. and pretty well understood. There are a lot of time savings opportunities out there, but for us, it's more about just being able to refocus your team's time to value added activities. So can they drive the business forward? Can we focus more on decision making, spotting exceptions, right? Being more prescriptive in our activities, those types of things. Let's get away from those non-value added manual activities or time spent doing research, all of those time wasting activities. And anybody in the finance department, you know immediately what I'm talking about. One of the things I think is most interesting is you talk about research, right? Boy, that can take an awful lot of time. And is that really all that value added? Sometimes it's helpful, but one of the things we focused on with our solution is being able to facilitate those research activities to answer those questions very quickly. So that's really what it's all about for us. And again, we'll point out some more examples as we're moving through. So yeah, a couple of similarities with sa.global. We've been around for a little bit over 30 years, global organization. If you've not heard of us before, we are a little bit newer to North America. But yes, certainly a global footprint and a lot of experience in a lot of different company sizes and industries and everything else. Two of our top key differentiators. One is we work through partners. And so here it is, a real time saver for you. If you've ever worked with another vendor and implementing their add-on solution, you know what happens. You're working with that vendor, having to explain your business. They have to get to know you, figure out what's up, what you need. Then there's this triangle that happens with the partner and understanding the environment and back and forth. And we have eliminated all of that. sa.global is the ones to go ahead and implement our solutions for you because, right, you're already their customer and they know you and you know them. And so we simplify all that and keep it efficient. Another key time-saving solution and another top differentiator is being built inside Business Central. What does that mean? Well, basically, we're not kidding, built inside. It installs inside Business Central or Nav, and we eliminate integrations. So rather than the typical approach with a lot of add-on solutions where they build a generic solution and then it works with a lot of different types of ERP systems, we only work with Business Central and Nav. I'm going to repeat that, only work with Business Central and Nav. So specifically and purposely built to work with Business Central and Nav, only work with it. You can't even run Continia on its own, right? It only can install inside the system and work inside there. So no integrations to build, nothing to test, nothing to break, et cetera, et cetera. Huge time saver every day. You'll see that as we're looking through some examples. With that, let's start talking about document capture. And again, thousands of implementations around the world. We've seen a lot of different invoices. We basically can handle any type of invoice that you want to throw at it. Up to 500 pages, we can do full and partial matching to POs and receipts, line level capture, coding to a variety of coding options, including dimensions, of course, capturing freight with no problem. We have 3 levels of workflow for approvals available. I'll touch on that as we're getting into it. So a lot of options, a lot of configurability in terms of matching your business requirements. If you are working with multi-entity management, Binary Stream has told us we are the only proven solution that works with multi-entity management. Very important there for your coding purposes, of course. Now, all of that's well and good, but it's not just for invoices. So any inbound documents, we can capture those, save those in Business Central, send those around for review, et cetera, et cetera. And so incoming purchase orders, incoming customer orders, you want to create a sales order, incoming contracts, et cetera, et cetera. I'll show you the ones that are delivered out of the box or sky's the limit, but we can automate a lot of different business processes. The basic flow, there we go. The basic flow is you are going to establish a vendor-friendly email such as accounts payable at or invoices at, and your vendor is going to email in their invoice. If you still get paper invoices, not a problem. Slap them on that desktop scanner and we can handle that. If you have a vendor capable of sending you e-invoices, invoices as XML documents, we can handle that out of the box too. We actually have been doing that for years already. But those invoices come in, read by the OCR service. We capture everything off of that document, save it into Business Central, create that purchase invoice. It goes around for review and approval. And then a step that I really like to highlight for the finance teams, this may be, depending on your level of automation and how you have things set up, maybe the first time the finance team sees an invoice. If you can imagine this, it's quite a flip from probably your current process. So the finance team, once it's been reviewed and approved, it will be queued up and the finance team can go in, review it, check the coding, etc., make any corrections that are needed before it's posted, and then they post and create the payable. This is the process I am going to walk through, and with that, let's go ahead and do that. And let's go ahead and flip over. Let's go into, oh my goodness, I have one too many windows open. Here's Business Central. And again, being built inside Business Central, everything's already here. So no other system to flip out to, no other integrations to wait on. All the data is available right here. What we do, of course, take advantage of the role center architecture, and you can see the activity queues we provide around expense management and around document capture. So let's walk through a typical process for a couple invoices, and I'm going to walk through how's it probably going to work for you. And then I'll show you some variations. But basically, the process I'm going to look through or walk through is the vendor sends in an invoice, it's captured, creates the purchase invoice, sent out for review and approval. We'll go ahead and take a look at it, approve it, and then queue it up for posting. Now, I talked about document captures not just for invoices. And in fact, we're timing out. I knew that might happen. All right. Not just for invoices. Bear with me as we get logged back in here. You can capture a number of different inbound documents. And let me show you the different document types that we support out of the box. I'm just going to go here to submit document. And right here, you can see, what do we have? 9 different document categories out of the box. Hopefully your mind is already spinning about different types of documents you have coming into the organization and what you can do with that to automate those processes. If there is something here that you want to capture and you don't see it right out of the box, great. You can make copies of these, or you can create one from scratch. So all included, all available right out of the box. Over here, of course, you can see the email addresses. Now, this is the system assigned email address. And what you'll have is between accounts payable at or invoices at and the system assigned email, you'll just set up a forwarding rule. This is the email address the OCR engine is watching. So I have 2 emails queued up. Here's the first one using that system assigned email. Let me go ahead and show you that invoice. Pretty basic from First Up Consultants, 7,500. So right now I'm First Up Consultants. I'm saying in an invoice, and we just did that. Let me go to my second invoice. This one is from Fabricam. So we got Fabricam for some proton packs for a total of 71,999. All right, so we'll go ahead and send that in. Okay, as we're waiting for it to make its way through the cloud, I want to point out, especially for the finance team members on the call, you can track the entire life cycle of your invoices right here from the Role Center. It's a lovely thing. As they come in and are read by the OCR, of course, they hit this queue. Once they've been read and they're coming into Business Central, they hit the ready to import queue. And then depending on how automated you have the process, that the next step is dependent on that, right? So if you have it automated to go ahead and create that purchase invoice, of course, it would become an open purchase invoice. Once it's set on for approval and it's in the approval queue with the manager, then it's purchase invoices for approval. And then you guessed it, after it's approved, then it pops into the released queue. And that's again when finance can come in and review it before posting it. Now, if it's an invoice from a new vendor, it's missing some information, you don't have it automated, it will go to the ready to register queue after it is read by the OCR engine, because that's your opportunity to go in. I call this the exception queue. You're going to need to go ahead and take a look at what's happening. All right, I'm going to go ahead and refresh my screen, and we are going to likely see a couple invoices sitting here and ready to import. I'm going to go ahead and import them, and I'm going to stress that you will probably never need to do this step. You'll have this set up in a job queue that runs behind the scenes a few times a day. We don't want to wait for that job queue to run, so I'm going ahead and I'm bringing that along. Now we're going to see one of those invoices is going to pop into that exception queue because I don't have it set up to automatically forward. The other one, I do have it set up to automatically forward. So again, this is probably going to be, or at least a nice goal for you in terms of how you want the process to work. So it already says an approval request has been sent. What happened with that invoice? Again, read by OCR, added to Business Central, created the purchase invoice, sent it out for approval. And again, finance can keep tabs on everything. I'm going to look at the purchase invoices for approval queue and see that invoice that has come in from First Up Consultants. You remember that. It's attached here. You can see down here some details, who it's going to, what's happened, where is it sitting, have any comments been made on it, and so forth. So it's waiting for somebody's review and approval. From Business Central, of course, you can do those things, review and approve it. Right under actions, we go to our approval. Now you can see some are grayed out because I'm signed in as, who am I signed in as? Esther, but the invoice is sitting with Robin. So Esther, right out of the box, doesn't have control over it. Esther, being a super user, could take control of it, but we're not going to go there just yet. So, but we have a lot of different options here. We even have a force approval option if the person with the right permissions needs to do that. So instead, even though we could go ahead and sign in as Robin here and do the approvals in Business Central, we're not gonna. We're actually going to open up our, web approval portal. There it is. So again, in a typical scenario, what will happen is Robin is the manager. Robin's going to get an email in their inbox that says you have an invoice to review. Now that email could go out immediately or it can go out on a set schedule. You all determine when you want these things to run, all set up in BC. From that email, they click a link and it's a single sign-on into this web approval portal. We provide this as an additional benefit because we often find, of course, a lot of folks that are involved in the review and approval of invoices are not core BC users, or shouldn't be, right? You want to not let them mess around inside the core system. So now we have a separate place for them to go to review invoices. This is also mobile optimized, very easy for them to do this on the fly from their phones. Okay, from here, of course, we could just go ahead and highlight that invoice, and we've got those typical options up at the top here, or we certainly could drill in and we can review all the details, of course. How is it coded? Where is it going? Who's touching it? They can add comments, they can add attachments, of course, can review the invoice. They can even come down and start to change the coding or split this invoice up. So if I wanted to change the coding, well, let's see what options I have. I have two options here. There are more available, but I have guardrails up according to the permissions. So I only have those options. And you can see here, I only have 2 GL accounts available to me as well. So the guardrails are pretty strict here, but I still can make some updates if I need to. I can even code it to a dimension if I want, right? We have the dimension department exposed here and these 3 available. I could even start a new line and split this amount up across a couple different departments, or I can pop up, choose a pre-configured template that does this split for me based on percentages. There we go. Took that 7,500 and it split it across 3 different departments. So a lot of options here, but with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'll probably approve it, but if I wanted to reject it, I could select a reason code and add a comment. If I forward it, I have some different options about where does it go next. And I can even select who it's going to go to. And we have the concept of shared approval. So if you have a team that you want to set up as a first come, first serve to review invoices, you can do that too. So a lot of flexibility here to match your processes, of course. But I'm going to go ahead and approve it. And that's all that there is in my queue. Of course, I can go back and look at what did I work on. And the other feature that we have in the web approval portal is I can delegate my review and approvals if I'm out of the office. So I can do this for myself, or an admin can do it from within BC as well. So we get a lot of nice comments on that. All right, let me go ahead and jump. We're going to continue on with our example here. So let me just go ahead and refresh. So far, invoices come in, automatically captured, automatically created the purchase invoice, automatically sent it out for review and approval. We have reviewed it, we have approved it. It's still sitting in the approval queue, and that's because, as you remember, we had 2 people that needed to approve it because it was above Robin's limit. So we're just going to go ahead and approve that real quick. That finishes the process. It is now in released queue. So again, finance team can come in, check how it was coded, everything else before they go ahead and post. I am going to go ahead and post just so I can show you one other thing. And this will create the payable, of course, and then you continue on with your payment process. Now, while this is posting, I'll describe, we do have actually 2 payment solutions available globally, that one of which we are now adapting to work with the North American banking system. The banking system being what it is, there's not a lot of standards out there, or there's a lot of variations on the standard, and so we're going through the process to adapt that, and should have our payment solution, we're calling it Continia Banking, available pretty early in 2024. So we'll have the complete purchase to pay process. Okay, so with that, we have sent that invoice all the way through. I want to cover a couple more things very quickly so we can move on to expense management. The next common question is, okay, how does it know what to do with all of this, right? So let me show you the kind of the brains that are happening behind the scenes here. So this is our exception queue, and let's go look at that other invoice I sent in. Here's that invoice from Fabricam. And you'll notice there's no other Fabricam on the list here. This is the first time BC with document capture is getting an invoice from Fabricam. So artificial intelligence went through and said, okay, let me do my best shot to capture information, and let's go ahead and see where we are. Well, guess what? It did a really good job, right? And you can see the orange boxes are the captions or the labels, the blue boxes are the data. So anytime you get an invoice in from a new vendor, you're going to want to check it the first time to see how it did, but it looks really good. Now I have a little message down here. It says accounts do not match. And so it's a little confused, and let me get my GoToWebinar box out of the way. It's a little confused over here because it didn't capture freight. Easy enough to do. I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to go to template and add template field, and I want to capture freight. So look, again, being built inside BC, how easy it is to customize this to fit your business processes. Now, if I can find freight, we've all set. There we go. I've added freight. I want to go ahead and tell it what's freight. So I'm just going to draw a couple boxes around the label and the amount. And there we go. That made that happy because we've got like 50 different error checks that are going on behind the scenes to make sure total is total, that we don't have a duplicate invoice, et cetera, et cetera. Now it's saying it doesn't know where to code this. Well, again, being an invoice from a new vendor, let's tell it where we want it to code it. So right off the top, a number of different places we can code invoices to, right? A lot of options. We're going to, of course, just code this to a GL account. And then we have to say, okay, how are we capturing freight? Well, we're going to put that to a charge item. And what are my freight accounts? Great. All right, we're gonna rerun the engine to make sure everything's good. No more comments. And here it is. We've just updated the template, the rule set for how we want to capture invoices from Fabricam. It will remember all those settings going forward, capture all of that automatically. And then of course, if you get a different invoice type in, you can make an adjustment for that as well. Let me show you that rule set very quickly. I'm going through a lot very quickly, but I want you to understand how configurable the system is. Here's all the rules, right? Are we looking at lines? Do we want to create that invoice automatically? What are the steps? Well, first is create an invoice. We could match to an order. I talked about full and partial matching. And we can go ahead and submit for approval, etc., automatically. If we are matching, we can auto run a match. We can get it to match against the receipt and or an order. We can automatically approve it, select a custom approval workflow, etc., etc. A lot of configuration options here. So with all of that, let's see. I'll show you real quick too. I think it's this invoice. We've captured line information. I wanted to show you this real quick too. Captures all this. You can specify how much do you want to match, or what fields do you want to use for matching? Is it the quantity, the cost, the line amount, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm going to drop into our detail here, and so you can see the information that was captured from the lines. And we've translated the vendor's item numbers into our own item numbers as well. And of course, all that's retained for future invoices. So again, a lot of options here, a lot of flexibility, a lot of checking that's going on. One last thing with the document capture before we switch to expense management is our document search. So running invoices through the OCR engine or any other documents captures, as I said before, all the information off that document. And why is that important? Back to my research comment. I can look for any word on any document and it's going to pull it up, all the documents, whether we've registered this as an invoice yet or even addressed it. So here we go. We looked for first. Here's all the information. And along with that, of course, we can see the specifics, how we've captured that information and so forth. We can look at the actual invoice that came in. We can even see, I'm going to select this one for this one, we can see the incoming email to get the context of what the vendor set with the email. And so here we go. Here's my original email that we send in with when we started the demo. Because we've posted this, of course, we can look at our find entries feature and see all of the geo entries, journal entries, et cetera, that have happened as a result of that invoice. We have covered an awful lot here. I do want to make sure we have plenty of time for questions and so forth. So I think I'm going to stop there. Before we switch over to expense management, let's check if we have any questions on document capture. So
if you want to put any questions in the chat.
Yeah. Do we have any yet? No?
Not yet.
Okay, well, it gives me a chance to have a sip of coffee and then I'll wait a second to see if any questions come in before we switch gears here. And again, our contact information will be at the end here. Certainly, I would imagine you might have some additional questions after you hop off and either talk to your team or review the recording. Happy to address those too. Jolene, anything coming in?
Nope, I think we're ready to proceed. Thank you.
Good. All right. So I skipped over a couple things there, but I think you got the essence of it. Well, you know what? Since I'm looking at this, I will make one more comment. Talked about, notifying the approvers about that they have invoices to review, and you can either do that manually or, like I said, send that on a regular schedule. So you're in complete control how much you want to bug folks. Right. We usually get some smiles on that from the finance team for sure. So let's flip back over to talk about expense management. And I'll tell you what, with expenses, if you're using a system already, you know there's not a lot to it, right? People submit expenses, review and approve it, reimburse them, or pay the corporate credit card bill. And so we absolutely take the position that we want this process to go as fast and as simple as possible. Nobody really likes dealing with expenses. That's for the submitters and for the finance team. And so, again, make it as intuitive as possible, straightforward as possible, and let's move on to other things. And so we really take that theme into account. We certainly can handle reimbursable expenses, corporate credit cards, mileage, have a very nice integration with Google Maps that I will show you as well. But more importantly, we have this concept of submitting individual expenses or an expense report. So this is a little bit different. If you're using another system or traditionally paper-based, you're probably used to the concept of having an expense report due on the, say, the 22nd of the month. We give you an option to get away from that month-end crush. And of course, everybody's scrambling around and being cranky about it, trying to remember, you know, why did I spend this money 15 days ago, and trying to document it. And we give you the option to submit expenses individually. So what happens there, of course, is now you're spreading that workload out through the month. You're capturing the information more real time, and so therefore it should be better information as well. And again, complete visibility into the expenses and into the spend all through the month. So a lot of benefits from that. Don't have to, but we give you that option, and I'll walk you through that. So employees can submit expenses in one of three ways. Most popular is to use the phone-based app, and pretty straightforward. They can either take a picture of the receipt and then come back to it later, or do it right then. Take that picture of the receipt. I'll show you the OCR reading the information off the receipt and filling that in for you in the expense, and then going ahead and filling in the rest of the information and sending it on. We also give you a web-based portal for submitting expenses. This is the one I actually use a little bit more since I'm at my desk and a lot of my receipts come in through email and online orders. And so just grab it and works the same way. OCR is the information, you go ahead and submit it. You also have the opportunity to submit expense receipts via email to kick off the process there. So submit the expenses, they all flow into Business Central, and of course are sent around for review and approval. We use the same approval portal for expenses as we do for invoices, and so a lot of save time there, not bouncing back and forth. For corporate credit cards, it's even a nicer process. So if you have a corporate credit card, the person that uses that card, right, they'll use that card, they take a picture of the receipt, and guess what? The information for that charge will come over automatically from your bank into your Business Central system and then be pushed out to that user. So all they need to do is attach the receipt and hit submit. It's a couple clicks. So that's a beautiful thing. In addition to, when you get your corporate credit card statement at the end of the month, all you need to do is bring that into BC. It will pull up all the charges you have been accumulating over the month. You hit go and it'll automatically reconcile that statement for you. So you don't have to line up all those lines in an Excel spreadsheet and all of that and chasing people down anymore. It's very, very slick. That's the basic process. Let me walk you through how it looks and how it works with the expenses. And so I'm going to go back into, guess what, Business Central. And again, complete visibility, no more surprises. You can see as the expenses come in and where they are sitting. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is show you, let's close that down, and we will open up our app emulator to show you a typical process. So we're going to enter an expense. And remember, I mentioned, typical process for folks is take a picture of that receipt, and they can either finish the expense right then or just save it and bring it back later. And so we're going to do that. I'm going to start an expense, grab that receipt, and submit it. So again, as simple and intuitive as possible. You can see we've got our different categories for expense, mileage, and so forth. I'm just going to go ahead and create an expense. And so I'm going to go pull from pictures of receipts that I've already taken. Let's just grab this first one here. Yep, that's the right one. Super. As mentioned, the OCR engine is going to go ahead and grab the information again off that receipt. So we got amount and currency. And of course, we can handle multiple currencies given that we're in, I don't know, 40, 50 different countries. Document date and description. Now, every field you see here, you have control over. What does that say? What are the options? Is it required or not, et cetera, et cetera. You can add custom fields here. You can pull basically any field from BC into here. So for example, a very common request is, well, I want to expose a dimension in my input here. It takes a couple seconds to actually do that. It's very quick and simple to do that. And again, complete control. But for this one, I'm going to go ahead and select that I used my private card. And what was it on? Well, it was on food. Okay, super. That's it. That's what was required. That's the input. And in fact, since this is the first time I'm doing this, artificial intelligence is now paying attention and realizing, oh, you started an expense and attached a receipt and you chose private card. Next time I do that, it'll automatically fill that in for me. But yeah, I want to walk through the example start to finish, and that's it. That's what the employee has to do to submit an expense. So pretty darn quick, as you can imagine. So what happens from there? Well, we're going to go back to Business Central. I am going to force this synchronization. Again, this will work on a job queue, and so you likely will never have to do this, but in the interest of time, we're not going to wait. And so we're going to bring that expense over. You can see that here. Again, we can keep track of all that. So I'm going to look at the expenses queue, and here's the one I just submitted. Now these other ones here, we're going to come back to in a second. These are corporate credit card charges. So the information has already come over from the bank and it's sitting here in BC. These are just waiting for a receipt. If you click on one, you can see attachment missing. So we'll come back to that, but here's the one we just submitted. You can, of course, look at the information. We can open up the expense card. We can see all the information. It's pending approval by the marketing team. So let's go ahead and take care of that. We are going to open up our web approval portal. Again, same place we went to before, and we'll be able to see this expense under our expenses. And here it is. Very similar to what you saw before, right? We can see the coding, we can see the actual receipt, we can change numbers, add comments, et cetera, et cetera. Just go ahead and approve it for simplicity. With that, we'll go ahead and refresh Business Central. And we will be able to see now, if we open up our expenses queue again, it's released. So same with the invoices. Finance team can come in, review it at this point. Good chance they haven't seen any of this yet, and then go ahead and post it. All right, so that's the basic process for an expense. Now, what about those corporate credit card expenses? Let's go back into our app here and take a look at those credit card feeds that have come over. Again, all we need to do is see if there's any other information needed, attach that receipt, and off you go. Now, of course, before I go there, you can check your history. We've only got one submitted so far, but you can see it's already been approved. And so you can see the status of all that and reference anything. Okay, now let's hit open, and here's those 4 corporate credit card charges that have come over already. I'm gonna go ahead and open that first one. And look at this, it has all the information that I am required to submit. So I'm just going to attach that receipt. We'll select that receipt. Yep, that's the one. And submit. So that was three clicks, I think, to handle a corporate credit card charge. Again, trying to make it as fast as possible, simple as possible. Let's go ahead and look at another one, and I want to show a couple other things here. We're going to attach that receipt, of course. Oh, it's right in front of me. All right, but I want to show you a couple other options here in terms of what you can do. One is it's already coded, right? Now, say that I got room service and shouldn't have been included as part of a corporate credit card charge, right? That's a personal expense for some reason. Well, I can go ahead and add an allocation line and just go ahead and say, you know, the $50 was room service, so we're going to split that out. and we're going to change that to a personal expense, right? So it's actually money I owe the company there. And if I needed to add a comment, of course, I can service. And we'll go ahead and save that. It does the math for me, splits it all out, et cetera, et cetera. Now I can submit it from here, of course. Let me show you one other thing to show you some of the flexibility in the fields that we're capturing here. If I were to change, no, that's not it. If I were to change the expense type to food with guests, I now have a new field that's popped up. Let's see if I can scroll down a little bit. It says attendees, and it's required. So we have this concept of dynamic fields as well. Depending on what you choose, you could show a job, for example, or a dimension, or et cetera, et cetera. All right, I am going to go ahead and, yeah, I'm just going to cancel this for now. I'm going to go back and, mindful of time, we're going to show you mileage, just like Google Maps, right? A from and a to address. Let's see, we ran out to the, no, ran out to the airport. Google will present you with a couple different route options, and you can click through to see which route you took. You can always override the mileage as well. Let's say that's the one I took, and we'll go ahead and add a description. And then Business Central will do the calculation based on the mileage rate that it has stored inside the system. So that's how you do that for mileage. And then did I do a round trip or whatnot? I'm just going to go ahead and submit that. As mentioned, we have the concept of expense reports as well. So it's as simple as creating an expense report. Let's call it November expenses. And then from here, we can either add expenses to it, or we can start an expense and add it to the expense report. And so let's do that. Let's go into our LinkedIn corporate credit card one here, and we're just going to add it to a report. Select the report. Now it's gone there. We're going to attach the receipt, of course. There it is. Okay, and now we're going to save. We're not going to submit because we're not sending in that expense individually. We're sending it in as part of the report. And as you can imagine, if I go back to my, whoops, that's not what I wanted. If I go back to my report, now that I have an expense tied to it, I can go ahead and submit that report or whenever I'm ready. There we go. All right, that's how you submit expenses and mileage and expense reports. Again, all tracked within Business Central and goes through and does the approval. I don't have time to show the corporate credit card reconciliation, but again, beautiful thing on the tail end with those corporate credit cards. And I think that's a good place to stop. Let's go ahead and see where we're at with questions. Jolene, anything in the chat?
Not just yet.
Okay.
If anyone
Well,
has any questions, you can put it into the chat below and Mark will try and answer for you.
yeah. While people are thinking about that, I'll show you a couple other things very quickly. You can find an awful lot of information on our website, including, of course, more detailed descriptions and feature lists for our different solutions. From the resources list, you can see one, our doc site. I'm just going to go ahead and pop that open. Pattern after Microsoft for easy reference. All our help documentations available to the public. So you can go out and have a look, see how everything looks and works. If you're more interested in seeing that detail, you can also go to our Learn site. Again, Pattern after Microsoft. And guess what? 4.5 hours of document capture training out here, 4 hours and 11 minutes of expense management training. If you're looking for something to do this weekend, go ahead and pop in and you can get a certificate after you go through the training as well. So great place to start in terms of getting up to speed, of course. But this really underscores that theme that we really aspire to, saving you time. We don't want to mess around. We want to make it as easy as possible. If you're interested in pricing as well, again, we don't mess around. There's a price calculator out here right on the website. Now, I would say get with your sa.global representative if you're starting to look at pricing to make sure you understand the inputs and the scope, and they will also help you understand the effort to put in, um, the effort that it takes to put in the solutions, how long will it take, et cetera, et cetera. We are not talking a very large effort, and really it's up to you on how much you want to automate out of the box, but they can help you pretty quickly with that, of course. All right, whew, we covered an awful lot of material here. Surely we have a question at this point. Yes?
Nothing yet. It's because you did such a great job, Mark.
Well,
I will say that we have done many of these, and it is a simplified process to find out what the pricing is, and as well as the implementation. So happy to help anyone who needs it, and you can just reach out to me, and we can get you hooked up.
and so let me go back to the slides to get to the contact information. But again, boy, we love hearing stories about how we were able to enable a team to really redirect its focus on much more important and interesting activities, to be sure. So would love to hear a story coming out of an effort as well. So oh, there's the email addresses. I forgot where it was. There we go. There's our email addresses. So as Jolene mentioned, yes, feel free to reach out to either of us, certainly to talk about level of effort and next steps. Please reach out to your sa.global representative, and they would be very happy to help you with that. All
And
right.
thank you everyone for joining us today. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you very much. Appreciate all the coordination again. Thanks everybody for your time. Have a great rest of the afternoon.
You too. Thanks.